All right, guys, I mentioned this on the way out last time, but unemployment benefits are expiring today, and there's no resolution or extension in place. And the Senate's gone home. The House is on its way home. Let's bring in our company to discuss. With us today, editor-in-chief of the National Memo, Joe Conason, and host of the Derek Hunter podcast, Mr. Derek Hunter himself. Gentlemen, welcome back. This is Alex. She's filling in for Lindsay. How are you all doing?
Doing well. It's Friday. Couldn't be any better.
Yes,
All
Friday.
right. Yeah, this is it's good. All right.
I was going to ask you, speaking of Friday, like Sean said, the lawmakers have left and unemployment benefits are running out. Do we see this falling blame on one party or the other? You know, I know Republicans tried to force a vote to get some sort of short-term extension yesterday. So I guess, Joe, what does this mean for Democrats? Does this have any sort of political significance with it being an election year?
I think it has great political significance, and it redounds against the Republicans very heavily. I think it's pretty clear from almost all the polling that I've seen that the public blames the Republicans and the White House and the Republican Senate. The delays and the failure to act again. I mean, you saw the economic news yesterday. The president attempted to distract from it by saying he wants to delay the election. I mean, who can blame him? But I think people are upset that the Congress did not act. And
I think we're having a little trouble with Joe's audio. Derek, why don't you jump in? Because here's the thing that I thought was interesting. Mark Meadows clearly made a deal at the end and said, hey, we'll extend these benefits for 4 months. Nancy Pelosi and Schumer said no. Normally, I would say that would look bad, but I actually wonder whether that's, you know, they're turning around and saying we're not going to extend for 4 months, and yet it may be the Republicans that get blamed for this.
It could be the Republicans who get blamed for this because there's no group of human beings on the planet who are worse at messaging than Republicans, especially in Congress. But realistically, it should fall squarely on the lap of the Democrats who insisted that this must be done and it must be done soon. People will suffer. And Republicans said, okay, let's do it. And then the Democrats said, no, what? No. We've got to get out of town. In a fair world, in an honest world with an honest media, this would be reported as Democrats blocking the extension of not of unemployment insurance, but of a $600 per week bonus on top of unemployment insurance to try and make people as close to whole as possible. That's an important distinction to make. As far as the economic news from yesterday goes, yes, 9.5% decrease in GDP over the second quarter is bad, but it was reported as a 33% decrease, which was a lie. That's averaged over the year if it were to continue on this track. And frankly, I expected more than 9.5% shrinkage when you shut down everything except Walmart and Target. I don't really know what you expect the economy to do, but we are being set up for a big V recovery. And the third quarter, there's nowhere to go but up, but the third quarter promises to be have some staggering numbers in the other direction.
Yeah. Joe, Fauci was on the Hill today, and I wanted to talk about that if we have time. But I want to bring up something that Alex was touching on with Joe Pags, right? We keep having this discussion about whether or not what we can say and not say. I'm not here to debate the merits of hydroxychloroquine or not, but I think it's interesting that we now ban any discussion of it online. If you're not 100% on board, the thing that was interesting, and Alex touched on this, is that the Supreme Court has given us the right to say things as long as you're not basically, you know, as they say, advocating fire in a crowded theater. And yet we've now gotten to the point where, quote, anything that's hate speech, which is protected by law, now is being said, well, if you support hydrochloroquine, you get my point, you're immediately banned. I think that we have forgotten what our rights are to discuss. I'm not trying to get into the merits of whether or not the drug is good or not, but I'm trying to get into a discussion about whether or not we have forgotten what rights as Americans we have.
Constitutional rights, Sean. Exactly.
That's right.
What you're saying. The idea that we can voice what we've heard, repeat it, you know, just like we would on a public sidewalk. I am wondering why we can't do the same on social media.
trying to figure out where the question is in there, but if there is a question. But if the question is, have our rights been abrogated? I don't think it's impossible to discuss the merits of hydroxychloroquine or any drug online. The question is, are you falsely advocating the use of that drug by people who might be harmed by it? And I think that's something to be deplored and possibly to be stopped. There clearly on the clinical studies, there are dangers in this medication. even though the White House tells us no. And I haven't seen people stopped from discussing whether or not the government should be advocating this. What I've seen stopped are people who are, putting forth quack doctors to tell us, that space alien DNA is being used, and all kinds of stuff behind the hydroxychloroquine that are really questionable. And you can't really blame social media platform for wanting to be careful about people advocating the use of things that can be harmful.
Fair enough. But here's the difference, Joe.
To that?
People, yeah, you can, because people is one thing. I agree with you. But when a doctor says this is what I prescribed and they get shut down, that is silencing them. Derek, go ahead.
The largest study on this so far was done by the Henry Ford Hospital System in Detroit, where I grew up. Several hospitals, more than 2,500 patients, and it found a 50% decrease in the mortality rate, which is nothing to sniff at. And nothing is perfect, nothing is 100%. But to trust some Washington bureaucrat to tell your doctor what they can and cannot prescribe, or to call a drug that's been around for 65 years dangerous. How many people with lupus, how many people with rheumatoid arthritis are sitting out watching CNN or MSNBC going, oh my God, my doctor's been trying to kill me all these years by giving me this drug. This drug has a track record longer than most people are alive of not killing people, except in extraordinary circumstances where pre-existing conditions existed. Heart conditions, for example, that were exacerbated. Nothing was created. This is a very safe drug. So to imply that it's dangerous is wrong, especially when the alternative
Derek, like I said, I'm not even trying to get into the merits of the right or wrong. I think the point is doctors should be able to have this discussion with their patients. It should be able to tell us their opinion of it without feeling like they're going to be banned. But I don't think this is the last we're going to have of this discussion. But we have to wrap it here for now, because we've got to take the company quiz. All of you are sticking around. We're going to play today with Alex. We're going to see who does well. That's all next.